Mountains of the Goblin Queen by Banjo. Duke Brandon Amsford, teenage son and heir of Lord Highland Amsford, has been abducted, along with his bodyguards Malik and Kafir. It is believed that the wicked Goblin Queen Buwabihelixia is behind the kidnapping. No ransom demands have been made, and Lord Amsford fears the worst, so he has enlisted your help to rescue his son. The goblins are believed to have taken the boy to an old abandoned monastery, high in the nearby mountains. With apologies to Banjo, who submitted this quest during the 2024 Quest Jam. It was disqualified, presumably for overuse of available assets. However, upon further inspection, no such disqualification was warranted, and therefore, by way of apology, it gets its own video. Banjo is a highly creative member of the HeroQuest communities, and although I've filled an entire video up before about his WordPress website, containing all manner of HeroQuest homebrew as well as homebrew from other games, classic and contemporary, I'll link it again in the description below. This quest is for experienced heroes, and you won't be long in the quest before you understand why. Our party of an elf, a wizard, a monk, and a berserker is going to attempt it. We just left the staircase room, and now we have a ledge? This is nothing compared to the mountains on which I trained, berserker. The ledge doesn't discriminate, monk. We all roll, regardless. The upper right quadrant of this board in this quest is full of secret doors and skeletons. The walls are rousing ruses leading to rib cages. Oh, and traps. Lots and lots of traps. Probably could have just called this upper part of the board the entire quest and have been done with it. But no, completionists are gonna completionate. Alright, we've got one of the best uses of this tile that I've seen yet. Instead of just hanging out predictably in the center of the board, it is actually taking over a side of the board, covering up one of the rooms, and we've got block tiles that keep heroes from wandering in via the hallways. We've got the lovely statues and the rock wall tiles lined up to create a natural barrier on that side. And then we've got a bunch of very peaceful praying orcs, goblins, and dread warriors who will do no harm to the heroes whatsoever. Talk about an unreliable narrator. Let's go! I like the bit of storytelling in the quest notes up to this point. The zombie that was in this room is said to be dressed in the tattered remains of a monk robe. I might have used the wrong zombie mini for that. And the door to the monastery must actually be opened via a sort of strength test. You have to roll 1d6 and get a value less than your current body points. So you might actually weaken yourself enough in this corner quadrant. Whoops, let me just fix that. To the point where nobody can open the door to get into the monastery. Game over, man. Game over. Also, there are a lot of goblins in this quest that are ranged. Archer goblins, they're called. Although the only arch they make is the arc, formed by their throwing of their boomerangs and Molotov cocktails. Impressively, there are actually a couple of different ways to get to your objective in this quest. Now, there are a couple of instances of roleplay opportunities in the quest notes here, and unless this is part of a bigger campaign, this sort of thing can always be a bit confusing for me. I mean, I know what I'm going to do when I'm Zargon. I'm going to tell the players about the checks that they have to make and whether or not they have succeeded at that check. But just as an example, this is quest note E in this room. Inside the chest is 100 gold coins along with the Duke's expensive clothes. Have the goblins eaten him? Rolling one red die and scoring below their MP allows a hero to deduce that papers on the desk relate to inheritance rights. That's the entirety of the quest note. As Zargon, I'm going to have to let the heroes know that they are able to search the desk and to roll 1d6. It's not really something you do by default. I mean, you can search for traps, you could search for treasure, but making a check on furniture? So I guess whenever I see this sort of thing, I like knowing in the quest notes that these mechanics have been added. Don't get me wrong, the base game does this in random spots too. No context, just paper schmapers, can we please get back to the adventure? Sorry. Although we do get right back into the roleplay inferences with the very next quest note. This torture chamber appears to have been used recently. Talking with the jailers is an elf who matches the description of Brandon's bodyguard, Kafir. Before the heroes can question her, she attacks, and is promptly put down by a berserker and a monk combo. Alright, the next couple of rooms are actually really great. They have the unspoken storytelling. So for this one, we've got 2 orcs and a table. That's all there is in this room, and there are no quest notes, but I like to think that they're having like an arm wrestling match. I've never seen anything wrong with pushing miniatures into corners or kind of smooshing them against furniture or slightly tilting the furniture in such a way that makes the room feel a little more organic and less grid-like. So yeah, these ladies are having an arm wrestling match. And we could say this is related to the very next room where we have a couple of blacksmith orcs. One of them is working at the forge and the other one is placing weapons from the forge onto the adjacent rack for cooling. Environmental storytelling, that's what we've got going on here. And no quest notes. Into the hallway we go next. Wow, Ash, bold of you to assume that the heroes are just going to be able to make it in here and then... He's behind me, isn't he? There's a quest note in this room with the goblin standing in front of the fireplace. This is a crazed goblin. A chef that is wielding 2 meat cleavers, can attack twice per turn, and has the key to the chapel hanging around her neck. The pantry, stocked with goblin food. At least the potion of healing in the chest is edible. Drinkable. This is HeroQuest's chamber. Her handmaidens are a force to be reckoned with by goblin standards, but they are just 2 goblins after all. This is a first for me, brave heroes. When the heroes enter this room, the chapel, using the key, this is the monastery's chapel, hastily decorated for a wedding. Among those gathered here, you immediately spy Duke Brandon, who is bound with rope as he stands beside a shorter figure in a wedding dress and veil. Armed goblins line the room, while a dread priest presides over this strange ceremony. This is just a beautiful scene. It's absolutely wonderful. We've got a cultist here who's like, we are gathered here today. And the Sork is just like, it's so beautiful, the sanctity of marriage. And this goblin's just like, will you shut up? And then you've got Rosa Teeth over here who's like, I hope I can catch the bouquet. Hold on, this calls for a special miniature. There, I'm using the Goblin Warlock from Jungles of Delthrak. There's not a doubt in my mind that this would have been the miniature called out to use had Jungles came out before this quest. And just look at her. She's beautiful. The bride flips up her veil to reveal the face of HeroQuest, the Goblin Queen. Who dares interrupt my wedding? Brandon is to be my husband. We are in love, aren't we, darling? It's not true, Brandon calls fearfully. I don't want to marry a goblin. Wow, racist much? Ah, shut up, brat. They only want you for your money and title anyway. Grisella, kill the intruders. I am looking forward to my honeymoon. Pop off, sis. Can you stop this nefarious wedding before it's too late and Brandon marries a goblin? Because if you don't, that's gonna spell doom. You know what? I'm not really seeing the con here. Hold on, just a second. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? The Duke marries Goblin, the Goblin becomes a Duchess. The territory remains under the Goblin's control if the Duke perishes. I mean, by most medieval standards, the lineage would pass on to the male heir. If it's the Duke's heir, which comes with a whole host of questions that we're not even going to get into in this video, then wouldn't he consider that legitimate? The bouquet is beautiful. Roses are so pretty. But I don't want to marry a goblin. Look, Duke, don't knock it until you've tried it. I mean, that didn't come out right. Hold on. I get paid either way, so... There are a couple more secrets in this quest, and the ending is a little bit variable depending on what all secrets you've discovered during the quest, but all in all, this is a very difficult, yet very good rewarding time. I anticipate some hero deaths here because we've got 2 very large fight scenes, and we've got a lot of little crowds of mobs throughout the quest. Generally, the sections are set up to where you start here, and you could take either path to come here. You have to make it to the upper left room to get the key to the chapel, but I think... I think that that's pretty much all that's necessary. It's digging into the other rooms to get the fates of the 2 bodyguards that helps enrich the quest as far as lore and also reward at the end of the quest. But all in all, I think it's a very fun idea. I think it's a really fun end game or climax, and this might be the first time I've seen a wedding that we're crashing in HeroQuest. Banjo's made some cards specifically for this, and I'll have put them on the screen throughout the video, or perhaps right now if I've forgotten to do that. Bad Editor Ash, be good with timing. Or good Editor Ash, good job on that thing that you did. But all in all, apologies to Banjo. Once again, they waited quite a bit for my communication on this, and then waited a bit longer to get resolution after I said I would look into it. And then, presumably, waited much longer for me to actually get back into this, which is not something that is anybody's fault but my own. I've got excuses, but should have been done a long time ago. Anyway, until next time, Brave, what's going on here? Excuse me, can we get some privacy, please? Right. Sorry about that. Let's leave the Duke and his goblin bride alone for now.